Support Pro Games on Patreon.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Yeehaw Yadam here doing another Battle Spirits gameplay commentary. I'm excited for this one because this was our store championship here at Games, where we have two very similar decks kind of battling it out. It's going to be a yellow versus yellow fabled strategy. And we're going to see exactly how that necessarily goes. I do like it when there's a mirror match. Mirror matches can go one of two ways, right? So it's usually both players are very aware of what's inside each other's decks, right? As they play the same strategy. And at the same time, they're able to have their little techs really, really shine. So we're going to see the player go first and play a Flying Turtle. Now, Flying Turtle is a 2 cost with 1 reduction card that states when summoned at the top of your deck is Fabled Beast added to your hand. So it's a nice little early game start from the top player. And the bottom-sided player is going to go ahead and start with the double koala, as I like to call him, the freestyle. So freestyle is going to come down. It is equivalent in cost to the flying turtle. It's just this time, this one has a on destruction effect. It says draw a card of one of your spirits with a cost 2 or lower is destroyed by battle, right? So during either attack step, that means whether they're defending, whether they're attacking, they can go ahead and get that effect. Although there's nothing in the trash right now that really is going to be able to synergize with that. It's maybe something that synergizes later. Now, one of my favorite cards in the game comes down. It's going to be Pentan. Pentan is a little penguin boy, such a cute little lad. He's going to go ahead and place 2 cores on him to make him a 3k. Obviously, a 1k is just a little bit too low. But what Pentan does is a blanketed effect, and with the 2 cores on it, you get that effect, and it states reduce the cost of the first magic card you use each turn by 1. Very simple, very clean. The bottom player is going to go ahead and respond to that by activating 2 Phantasmal Paradises, a very strong nexus in the Fabled Beast archetype deck, and then he's going to go ahead and swing out with his little koalas. So the Phantasmal Paradise, if you guys that don't know, states that with no cores attached to it, it's just a 4/2 nexus, a classic nexus stat, that states when you summon a Fabled Beast, you may exhaust the nexus to draw a card. So it's just a little bit more consistency tools just to keep you with cards in hand. If you play the Fabled Beast engine. He's going to go ahead and pass it, and the player is just going to immediately clear the board using the Burning Force card, which has become a nice little staple in many, many decks. It just allows you to go ahead and clean up either nexuses or creatures. It's very, very versatile, and because of that, we just keep seeing it in almost any deck. Because of Pentan, that card is also reduced in cost. Even though it is a red card, Pentan allows him to go ahead and play it and not feel too bad. But this is all possible because of the 2-core ramp that happened from the freestyle attacks. Passes it back to his opponent. Now it's a 5-3 life situation. I kind of do like the fact that one of them is using cores and the other one is using cards. It's very easy to distinct between the two and what's going on. So the bottom-sided player is going to go ahead and seem like he's paying 2 cores. Maybe playing 2 cores, and he's going to go ahead and summon the Arcane Knight Hex. Now the Arcane Knight Hex is reduced by both of the nexuses, and it basically just states that during your attack step, draw a card when your life is increased, right? So if you have any sort of blessed creatures or anything along those lines, that'll be really, really nice to go ahead and do. So he's going to go ahead and I think I missed out on that, what happened there necessarily. But he's going to go ahead and swing out, put his opponent down to 2 life, and then go ahead and pass. And there's not many active cores on the bottom-sided player's side, so that's something that the top player has to go ahead and push through. He's going to go ahead and play double Hippocampo. Hippocampo has the blessed tagline, which basically states that when he goes ahead and deals damage to your opponent's life, you get to heal 1 from the void, I believe. So double Hippocampo and a little squirrel, the little squirrely boy, Gem Beast. So he's going to swing the Hippocampo. That's going to go ahead and ramp him in a sense and also heal. Really, really nice. Hippocampo going to get in there again and super duper punishing by tapping out and all your cores in that scenario for his bottom-sided opponent. So big punish. Hippocampo doing God's work. And now this it also puts him in a situation where he's kind of pressured by the Hippocampo. He doesn't really want to go ahead and declare all of his attacks, because if he does, then he leaves himself open for more bless life shifts, which may be a little bit difficult to handle. But now we're going to go ahead and see Wonderland Alice come down. Now, Wonderland Alice is one of the key figures in this deck. Has a lot of text, but the most important text is when this spirit attacks, select one of your opponent's spirits, reduce its battle power by 1,000 for each spirit you control during this turn. So as you go wider, the stronger that Alice's goes, that's going to go ahead and reduce it. It's going to go ahead and remove the Hippocampo. That's exactly what Alice does. As a piece of removal option, and you can choose to defend here with the little squirrely boy, or just take. And I think he just takes. There's no reason not to. He's gonna pass with the Hex Knight or the Night Hex in an unexhausted way, so he can go ahead and defend if he so chooses to. Wonderland Alice has also another effect. During either attack step, if you control 3 or more spirits, when the spirit will be destroyed, you may place a core from the void on it to keep it on the field exhausted instead. So it makes it so that the card is very, very sticky and difficult to out. And then here becomes one of the promos that really has made its way into the game, the Dual Eagle. Now, Dual Eagle states while the spirit attacks, it is blessed. So you already know the blessed key term is a little bit correct, if you say. And then at the core, when he has 3 cores on it, it states when your spirits with blessed cannot be blocked by your opponent's level 1 spirits. So if your opponent isn't attaching all their cores in a good, in an opportunistic fashion, the Dual Eagle makes it so that your blessed creatures just go ham on your opponent. Fortunately for the player on the bottom, he's not going to fall into that fallacy because he has cores on both of his characters. His Night Hex can go ahead and defend as well. But since Dual Eagle was big, he's going to go ahead and just take the hit, and he's just going to Ice Shield out. As that was the card that he had placed in the burst zone, just to go ahead and kind of pass the turn. And now we're going to go ahead and remove a couple cores and start our main phase, right? I'm going to go ahead and draw. And then we have, I can't tell exactly how many cores we have to work with, but we both players have quite a bit now. Speaking of Dual Eagle, I'll show you my Dual Eagle. That's going to go ahead and trigger both of his nexuses. He's going to go exhaust them both to double draw here, and that's what's really nice about having these nexuses. And even though he Burning Forced the characters just to gain himself a little bit of time, if had he Burning Forced maybe some of these nexuses, he might not have to deal with the advantage that his opponent's going to be gaining over time with them. This is just the first time I believe that they trigger, so we'll just see exactly what those nexus counters look like towards the end of the game. And he's just doing a little bit of a think. He has a ton of cores to work with. What we see under his characters at this moment is exactly 7, and I think he has 3 more cores towards the bottom that he still has available to him. Looks like he's going to enter the battle step, which is weird, right? Because you just want to place your cores. Okay, good. Alrighty. All his characters are cored up to 3. Love to see it. Core gamers. And I think, it's going to be a very interesting and a turn for him where he has to decide how his attacks really get declared, and he wants to use this this blessed Dual Eagle to go ahead and get some momentum back on his side. So he's going to declare the attack with the Dual Eagle first, and again, playing around that, he goes ahead and defends with his Gem Beast Carbulk. So Carbulk is just a vanilla Fabled Beast, and he's going to go just use it as a chump blocker just so that the blessed doesn't trigger. And then he's just going to go ahead and start his turn. So we have 2 blessed creatures on the top player side. We have the Dual Eagle, we have the Hippocampo, and now we're going to go ahead and see him summon a card that hasn't been summoned in this game just yet. By that image, it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to figure it out. Let's see. Yeah, it seems to me, yes, certainly. So that has to be, and I'm going to kill this name, Eravath. Eravata? Ervate. Well, he's a flying elephant. So this flying elephant is just a small vanilla Fabled Beast that states when you may select a spirit with a cost of 2 or less from the trash and summon it, right? When destroyed. So this again is very similar to the koala that was there earlier, but just a little bit higher statted, and I think it's a little bit more versatile. I think it can also just summon the koala. So have a nice little synergistic loop that can happen between those little beasts. We're just going to pass it back, charge up all our cores here. Defensively, no card in the burst zone, so that's also very important to know from the bottom-sided player. He's going to go ahead and play a Hippocampo of his own, charge him up with some cores, trigger the Nexuses. Now these Nexuses have drawn him 4 cards total, net +2 or +1 on each of the Nexuses. And that's where things are going to get a little bit scary, right? Because the player on the top, even though he had like a nice tempo swing because of the Hippocampos, he might start just losing advantage slowly but surely. Speaking of Hippocampo, we're going to go ahead and defend Alice here. As Alice is probably one of the only cards that's going to declare an attack. Or he could just go ahead and pop off. He's going to trigger his little flying elephant. The flying elephant's going to go ahead and summon a level 2 spirit, which is going to be the flying turtle. Flying turtle is going to get its ability here. And it's not a Fabled Beast, it's the Exhausted Nexus. And just a little bit of cycle, because that card would have not been useful here. So it's going to be tough to come back from this game state. It seems like he has maybe 1 card in hand. So even with all the cores in the world, it may not be enough. And then speaking of, We're going to go ahead and use our Exhaust Nexus after we've declared attacks. Exhaust Nexus is just going to go ahead and decrease the battle power of a Spirit by 3,000, which is going to remove the turtle off the board. And then he's going to pass it back. All he has is the Dual Eagle and a Dream. And it seems like they're just talking it out, but it might just be doomed. And yeah, he's just going to go ahead and trigger another magic card. That's going to go ahead and reduce his Dual Eagle, remove it from the game. Just bless up with the Hippocampo, and then swing in with the Hex Knight to go ahead and trigger the ability. And yeah, pass it back. 1 life, no burst. Yeah, you have 10 cores, but not enough cards to really get the advantage. And that just shows cases how strong those Nexuses were, just keeping him in the game. Even though there was a couple turns where it looked a little dicey for the bottom player, he did have a great start with the double koalas. He had a nice mid-game transition. Then his opponent had the answer for like his early game, and then he just set up with the Nexuses and said, I'm gonna eventually outvalue you, which is really, really nice to see that can happen even in these very aggressive decks, right? Because don't be fooled, you know, seeing all these larger cards like Alice and the Eagles. This is more of like a lower to the ground mid-range deck that seems to just be going really, really fast. I do not know if either of them is playing any of the God Beasts, but I'm very interested to see if they are in the deck. I think standard-wise, you do see them in the Fabled Beast deck, so hopefully one of them gets to summon the Behemoth. I really like that card. He looks really cool. And then taking it from my opponent's side, he just lost going first, so is going second the play? Does it matter? Do you want to be you do still want to take the initiative? Personally, I'd still take going first. I think it's just overall a little bit better. Just in card games in general, just having that initiative, even though with a 1 less card, just seems to be the play. Even like with all the negative downsides that they give to going first, or like the positives they give to going second. And I guess like the biggest downside was he just lost going first. So there's that fallacy of, do I choose to go first again where I just possibly lost, or can I just go first again and, you know, just have a better start this time and just play it out correctly? So I'm hoping that he doesn't fall into that trap and opts to go first and does a little bit of Fabled gaming. So a couple cards to highlight there. Besides the Nexus, the Exhaust Nexus, there is the Nexus that he played for the Fabled Beasts. But the Exhaust Nexus was pivotal in just like removing and clearing the board, keeping up the tempo, alongside some of these spell cards that also exist in the yellow deck, such as the Angelic Pressure, which was really cool to see in combination with these low to the ground and aggressive cards. Alice kind of just owned him, just removed a character on swing, kept the pressure, is just super duper sticky. I wonder how you remove that card efficiently in this deck. Not necessarily sure if there's a way. So we're setting up for game 2 here, and let's see what they go ahead and decide to do. All right, so after about a whole 2 minutes of setting up, siding, shuffling, card gaming, we're here to game 2. So game 2, opponent does correctly opt to go first, and he plays one of my favorite cards, the Flamefish. Now the Flamefish, just a sticky little defensive card, which is nice. It's a card that, you know, kind of prevents a little bit of the aggression from the early game from your opponent, but it's, again, very easy to play around because all the Flamefish has is that on block, if it has the Soul Core, it kind of pings another character and deals some damage to it. But if you just put your cores correctly, you can efficiently play around it. It just seems in the early game, it just stifles your opponent from just all-inning you over and over. So, passing it back to the bottom player just has the Nexus one more time, and then we're going to go ahead and play our Pentan. So very similar openings. I do like his opponent noted that this time he can go a little bit slower. The Flamefish isn't really going to do much to him. He's going to swing with that Pentan, putting it up to 2 to make sure that its ability is active, and he just played the Phantasmal Paradise, right? So just set up for his following turns here. And if he has a couple of the weak little, or the, maybe not weak, but the lower to the ground Fabled Beast, he can go get a couple of draws here while also trying to keep up with the aggression. So let's see, we're going to go ahead and pay 2 because we're reduced. We're going to trigger the Angelic Pressure. Angelic Pressure is going to remove the Flamefish from the board, which was, I guess, the most defensive option that his opponent had. He's going to go ahead and pay 1. Nope, deciding how he wants to pay for this. Pay 3 and put 2 cores, and I'm assuming we're going to see yep, and there he is, the Night Hex. So Night Hex, just a big dude right now. He's going to use it as a defensive target, just a 5k vanilla at this point in time that doesn't really do too much. Once again, just to remind you guys, you get to draw a card when your life is increased, so it triggers really well with all your blessed targets. He's going to pass it back to his opponent who has just the Pentan. And he's going to go ahead and summon the Hippocampo. Now, even though Hippocampo is here onto the board, and again, very good tempo card, the unfortunate aspect is that it's just not big enough and you don't have enough cores to make it as a viable threat versus this Night Hex. And he's going to go ahead and attach another core to Pentan. And this is possibly a pass. It's just getting walled by this Knight. He's going to go ahead and swing with the Hippo. He's just going to block with the Knight. And then he's going to trigger his Angelic Pressure. So nice little bait there on his opponent's side. That's just going to go ahead and double trade the Knight for the Hippo. So interesting. Don't hate it. Don't love it. But that's something that's really cute that you can do in Battle Spirits. You go ahead and attach your cores to specific characters. And when you do that, you can just go ahead and swing aggressively. Let's not forget that Pentan also reduced Angelic Pressure just slightly there. So even though Angelic Pressure would have been a cost of 3, you can, reduce its cost by 2 and still get it going. So he's going to go ahead and pay a couple cards. And oh, I think, aha, there he is. The Behemoth. So the Behemoth is an interesting card. When summoning this spirit card from your hand, you may use the symbols of any spirit card in your trash that costs 2, in addition to the symbols on the field to reduce its cost. So we have, I'm not necessarily sure if there's any spirit in the trash that has that, as all I believe the bottom player has done is the Angelic Pressure plus the Night Hex. So I don't think he gets the full ability or that reduction from the Behemoth. But what is cool about the Behemoth is that when this spirit attacks, your spirit's cost 2 cannot be blocked by your opponent's spirits that cost 2 or higher. So it shifts the blocking ratio from your opponent. It makes it so that all these little weenies, like this little flying elephant, which he's going to go ahead and draw a card via the Phantasmal Paradise, makes it very difficult to defend against. Although the Pentan can defend against it, speaking of Pentan, because they are of equivalent levels. Now if he just cores these up, he can get into his opponent's life. Now, does he want to is the following question. And that's something that he has to go ahead and decide what he wants to go ahead and do. Seems like he's hovering over the little elephant here. And it seems the elephant is going to go ahead and swing in, but we're having a little bit of a lag issue. So he's going to actually swing with the Pentan. Pentan's going to connect. And he's going to swing in with the elephant. The little flying elephant. And possibly the Behemoth. Get in there, big boy. Get in there. He opts not to swing with the Behemoth, which is fine. Understandable. Yeah, keep him as just a humongous blocker. I think it has 2 cores under it at this time, maybe even 3. It's probably 3. So he's humongous. Gonna go ahead and summon the Dual Eagle. Dual Eagle is gonna come down and possibly connect here. If he has some sort of way to remove some of the cores from his opponent, which I don't believe he does. You can go ahead and, I'm coping, but what if a Boculus comes down? You can just like Boculus, go down, make it the Dual Eagle, just be unable to be blocked. I guess that's another way that you can play this deck. You can like swarm the board with blessed creatures like Hippocampo, Dual Eagle, and things like that. Boculus, and then just full all in. Can't be like blocked. Bless up. That's interesting. Not sure if we'll see it or anything along those lines, but it's interesting. And then we'll go ahead and play another Nexus. Now, this is a Nexus that hasn't been activated this game, so it's something a little bit different. So now we don't only play the Paradise here, we also play different Nexuses, which I think is just pretty interesting that there's a variety in these decks. We have the Blessed Cathedral. Blessed Cathedral states that during either player's attack step, place a core from your void into the reserve when one of your yellow spirits is destroyed. So it just kind of ramps you as you go ahead and push out these yellow spirits. There's also another effect that says draw a card on one of your yellow spirits is destroyed. So, but I doubt that that's going to be an effect because it requires 3 cores, and it's something he's going to have to really attach his cores awkwardly because he wants to really place him on his creatures since his opponent is just kind of all inning him with these very small little dudes. So he's going to go ahead and summon another Flying Elephant. The Flying Elephant's going to trigger his Phantasmal Paradise, which will let him draw 2, which is big, right? Because he was starting to decrease in hand size. I believe at the start of this turn he was at 1, and now he's at 3. And all he has to do from here is really attach his cores in an efficient manner. Maybe use Pentan's reduction and just overall efficiency. Seems like a very efficient tempo deck here at the moment. Swing in with the God Beast. The big boy himself gets in there. Now, will he block the big boy? I also find it interesting they decided to swing with the God Beast first. And then he's going to go ahead and block it with the Pentan. Go ahead and lose the Soul Core. Go into the Void, I believe. And he's going to ramp one because of his Cathedral. Or back to the reserve. My apologies. Misspoke. And then even though he has the Dual Eagle on board, he's going to go ahead and just pass. Just pass. There's too many cores for this Dual Eagle to really get in there and make the swing that he needs to make. So not going to be an easy turn whatsoever, but we at least have a couple very powerful Nexuses at our disposal. So we have Hippocampo. He's going to trigger the Paradise. Paradise is going to draw him a card. We have 3 total cards in hand, it seems. Going to go attach a couple cores to the Hippo. We have 4 total cores left at this time. It looks like it's 4 cards in hand. I think he's deciding whether he wants to all in here. Because I'm assuming one of those cards is just going to be, you know, just a small magic card, Angelic Pressure, Exhaust Nexus, something along those lines. You can put him on having maybe another small Fabled Beast, just another small Spirit, and then possibly like a bomb. So that's what I put him on having at this time. It's not going to be easy. Not going to be easy. And he's deciding exactly how he wants to do this. He's taking his time because this is probably one of the more important turns of this game. And he's going to swing in with a Dual Eagle. Now, the Dual Eagle will probably cause his opponent to block here. I don't think he wants that shift, right? Because it's as soon as he saw that card go into the burst, it's going to be very difficult to... You just immediately assume it's going to be an Ice Shield. So if you allow him to get a Bless into an Ice Shield, you're going to be in a bad spot. So you're going to defend with the Pentan. Just going to let the Pentan go. Yeah, seems about right. Because if your opponent just kind of chips you this turn, then he allows you to... You allow him to Ice Shield, then you're just in a really bad spot. He's going to go ahead and swing in with the Hippocampo. He's going to trigger the Bless effect, heal 1, and then pass it to his opponent. So with the card in the burst and his characters tapped, what does the player on the bottom do? Shout out to that shirt, by the way. I like the little egg fella. The little egg fella is kind of cool. Summon a Dual Eagle of his own. The Dual Eagle. Man, I can't say that name fast. Say that name 10 times fast, and then you tell me exactly how that feels. And he's deciding how he wants to place his cores here. So, most importantly, the Eagle is just takes out his Paradise as well. The Dual Eagle is going to go ahead and trigger his Nexuses, which is going to give him that draw 1, that net +1, and then he's going to be able to trigger the Burning Force to just pop his own Paradise to just, again, starve him of resources. He's going to swing in with the Eagle, which, again, he will bless himself, and then he's deciding if he wants to go ahead and trigger his Ice Shield here. Or even if he doesn't have it, I guess he's bluffing it. There is a universe where it's also Exhaust Nexus, but tough call. The player on the bottom went from having 1 card in hand to now 5 over the course of 2 turns. Very interesting. Now with the lack of Paradise on the opponents on the top side, might be in for a tough game. And he also places a card in the burst zone, so that Eagle could have drawn him into his own Ice Shield, which would have been really, really nice. And we'll see a Flying Turtle come down. Flying Turtle is going to go ahead and reveal Boculus. Okay, so he is playing that combo. Man, I'm not crazy. Oh, it seems to be Star Bless Draw, so at least you know it's not Ice Shield either. Star Bless Draw triggering there is also horrible because a draw 4 in this game. Once your opponent resolves that, it's always going to be very difficult to grind that out. Jeez, man. Sheesh Louise. Oh, he just has another one. PogChamp. He's going to go ahead and remove a lot of cores, and then that's going to allow his Eagle to really, you know, let his characters with the blessed target or hashtag or tagline, whatever you want to call it, really get in there, become unblockable. So he's going to go ahead and swing in with the Eagle, bless up, then swing in with the Hippo, bless up, and then Boculus can kind of just chill there and pass. Yeah, I'm super down for that. Issue is, you're going to have to Boculus back to back. It's not just going to, you're not going to win off the course of 1 Boculus, especially after Star Bless Draw. So Star Bless Draw, Most probably drew him into a Fabled Beast, which would then trigger his Nexuses to net him another +1, which would then possibly get him into his Ice Shield, and then it's just going to be a game of attrition at that point, which at this point in time, one character has, or one player has the Nexuses and the other doesn't, and that's just going to be a rough one. So speaking of which, we're going to get that +1 real quick, and then just slap a card into the burst zone, brother. Let's just see it. Attaching core. That's fine. You can do it in any order you so choose to. He's going to put some on his Eagles and some on his God Beast. And then you can even put some on your Nexuses for fun if you want. Pumping up his dudes, thinking, turning his head, shuffling his cards. Because he is in the position, he's in the driver's seat. He's in a position to win the game. He won game 1. If he wins game 2, he's just the store champ. He's just the gamer. I do want to see him play a card in the burst zone here. I want to see that Star Blitz draw just like gave him all the outs that he possibly needed, because that's usually what the card does, right? You resolve it, it draws you the 4, it digs you to the deepest parts of your deck, and those parts will allow you to get the advantage to win the game. So that's the importance of Star Blitz draw, and it's it's a staple for a reason. We actually just go into the combat phase. Again, he doesn't have to play anything to the burst. He can also just bait by keeping it in hand. He has enough cores that he can legitimately do whatever he wants. He's going to swing in with his Eagle. Try to go ahead and... the Eagle can be blocked by his Boculus. And then he's going to immediately just Ice Shield off of that. Ice Shield's going to go ahead and allow him to go ahead and pay a couple cores to negate the end of the... to kind of just stop this combat step and go back to him. And the only thing that he really can do is Boculus and then play another blessed creature and try to win off the back of that combo, because that seems like a very efficient way to get the kill. The issue is if his opponent does have an Ice Shield in hand and baited him at this point in time, then it's all mute. But we'll see. We'll go ahead and attach a couple cores here to our Eagle, our Hippo, and got 4 cards in hand and a lot of cores to work with. We're gonna go ahead and play Alice. Alice is huge here, actually. Alice is pretty big, as it's going to go ahead and allow him to rip a core from a specific character. You can remove that little Hippo. The issue is when it is, I believe that Hippo set is when it's destroyed, or is it specifically, and I say Hippo, but it's an elephant, little flying elephant, the Avianath, I think is how you pronounce it. Let's see, when it is destroyed, period. I thought it was destroyed in a separate format, so you can't even destroy that one. I guess you can remove the other one, make it so that one can't block, and his only blockable cards are the Eagle and the God Beast. Let's see. It's a lot of cores on Alice. He still has a lot of cores to play still. Alice is going to go ahead and declare an attack. And when declaring an attack, I believe she does strip a core. He's decided to block with the Beast here. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and defend with the Beast. No, sorry. Alice doesn't strip cores. My apologies. What she does is that she reduces battle power. And he's going to go ahead and trigger the Exhaust Nexus on the declaration of the block, removing a core from the God Beast. Man, this lag is really tough to deal with, I'm not going to lie. But let's see. Okay. I don't know how we resolved that game state, but we have resolved it. And it seems like now it is on his opponent's side to see if he wants to go ahead and how he's going to proceed with his combat phase. He still has 3 blockers. Going to go ahead and exhaust Boculus. Okay. Okay. And then we'll just pass it on to our opponent. I mean, we can't really afford to have our blessed creatures. I mean, Alice is super sticky, so who cares? But the blessed creatures are really going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting here. You're going to go ahead and see his opponent summon a Pentan. His characters are not exhausted at this time, I don't believe. He just hasn't moved them. I think he's doing a little bit of calculations. He's Gonna go ahead and use Burning Force. Burning Force, remove a core, and remove a core. Pentan's gonna reduce by 1, and then he's gonna remove another core. Okay, that's gonna be able to trigger the Burning Force. Remove another core. Well, that doesn't look good. That does not look good. And it just lags again. I am so lost in what's going on in this game. But it does seem like there's a lot of back and forth, but the lag is actually killing me. The only issue I do see from the player on the top side is that he's just being exhausted of resources while the other player is just going to be playing Nexus. So if this is just a Fabled Beast, yeah, it's just Ogre. And if we could just summon maybe another character. There's going to be 3 blessed characters attacking, by the way. So this is going to be quite the shift. Even though he has infinite cores, another Hippocampo just presents lethal in and of itself. You better have that Ice Shield, my guy. And they're just going to fist bump. Yeah, so definitely. I don't really... I guess what I'm trying... I guess I can try to construct the game state that happened a couple turns ago. I think that Burning Force in conjunction with Pentan allowed him to go ahead and just clear off the Fabled Beast. Maybe he had another clear spell as well. I don't think Burning Force necessarily can clear both of them, especially I believe they were cored up as well. Tough call, tough call. But he might have had, he probably comboed it with like an Exhaust Nexus, then did that as a, you know, reduction of battle power and then destruction, and then he went again and just all-in him. I don't know how Alice managed to leave the board though, but even though we couldn't really see the game today, I guess we kind of understand exactly how this game went down. It basically all came down to who was able to keep hand advantage. The player who was able to keep the hand advantage seemed to be always ahead because he always had spirits to cast, and once you have one Fabled Beast to trigger your Paradise, you will get into another one that'll continuously basically double, triple dip you every single turn. The Star Blessed draw was humongous. Having the Absolute Ice Shield by his opponent, even though he did have it, didn't necessarily do anything the turn that he used it. It kind of just wasn't a battle step that his opponent was going to all in him anyways. It was just a battle step that he was poking with a blessed creature to see how he reacted to it, and he reacted with the strongest card in his deck. Just in an opportune time. But I think that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys learned something. I'm sorry about all that lag, and in general, I'm not the craziest, most experienced Battle Spirits player, so if I made a couple of errors, and if anyone exactly knows what the game state was where I got a little lost in game 2, please go ahead and leave it in the comment section, as it will allow us to, in general, the viewers, the commentators, you know, the community, to understand exactly what happened there and just get a little bit better at the game that we enjoy, called Battle Spirits. And as always, guys, I'll see you on the next video. Later.